Hey, Adam,
Jeez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they called bumpers, Gary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that sweet logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed two little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Talk, a weekly podcast here at Idaho State University's Continuing Education and Workforce Training. I am one of your hosts, Paul Dickey. I'm the Video Instruction Manager and Apprenticeship Coordinator here at Sweet. And as always, joining me is our Marketing Director, Angie Wilhelm. Angie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. For those of you who do not live in Idaho, it was May 2nd yesterday and it snowed.
It snowed this morning when I was walking in.
Yeah, it snowed this morning. The sun is out now, melting a little bit of it. We actually have a really special guest on today to talk a little bit about the Shoshone-Bannock tribes, as well as the education and ignite their future for the Shoshone-Bannock tribes. Joining us today is Randy L. Teton. She is the Public Affairs and Tribal Relations Specialist for the U.S. Forest Service. If you do not know Randy's name, you certainly know Randy L's face. We might be able to get into that a little bit during this podcast. Randy L., can you take some time to tell us a little bit about yourself and your position with the U.S. Forest Service?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And thanks for having me, Paul and Angie. I serve as the Public Affairs / Tribal Relations Specialist with the Office of Communications, which is out of our headquarters office in Washington, D.C. I am remote. So I get to stay home and work from home in the beautiful state of Idaho. I actually been working with the Forest Service for a little over a year now. Prior to that, I was working with the Shoshone-Bannock tribes as the former public affairs manager, worked with the tribes for 11 years in contributing to my community. And then before that, just working in nonprofit sector, and a little bit of museums, have a degree in museum studies. And so I'm kind of one of those individuals just has a passion for history. And again, passion for providing the Indigenous voice wherever I can.
Excellent. So, Randy L., can you tell us what do you do for the Forest Service?
Communications, everything communications. So it's not just with a regional unit or the state. It's actually all United States forest units, including Alaska. My portfolio includes the Office of Tribal Relations and Alaska. And I've been doing, I think the funnest project that I'm currently working on is with the U.S. Capitol tree. So very interesting on just the high level of coordination of selecting the tree that will be on display in Washington, D.C. at our Capitol. This year it's coming from Alaska. So I am going to be fortunate to get to travel to Alaska to actually witness. So those are the fun things that I get to do. And again, when it comes to connecting to the tribal communities, I still am just one of the arms of reaching out to tribes and assuring that they have notice of funding opportunities, co-stewardship agreements, making sure that we are providing that government to government relationship building between the Forest Service and the tribes. So it is definitely a very rewarding position. And it is new to the Forest Service.
Oh,
In the
okay.
in the Office of Communications, they've never had a tribal relations individual in the position, but that says a lot of what the Forest Service is implementing when it comes to building better relationships with tribes.
Excellent, excellent. So on the tribal relationships, you said this is a new position.
Mhm.
They've not had this position before. Do you know what perpetuated this position being created?
Yeah, the forest chief, Randy Moore, went and approved a tribal action plan in 2023. Right. So I was hired right after that. And so these are promises, fulfillments of the Forest Service and working better with tribes. And so I was hired from that from those goals. So
So have you noticed moving forward that the government has actually seeking out more better relationships with tribal communities in the last few years?
I can't speak in general for the whole federal government. I can only speak on behalf of the Forest Service because I'm part of the team now, and I'm part of adding that voice that has been missing. And I think that's what's been important is including individuals at the earliest level to start the planning and the coordination so that way we're taking into consideration the tribal community population, the tribal needs. We can only speak for ourselves and what we need and what we would like. And so I would have to say that the Forest Service has actually been doing an amazing job so far, and they have had some really good relationships in the past, but again each state, each region is different, just because of the people, the geography of the area. There's a lot of factors involved, but again, I'm at the WO level, the Washington office level, where a lot of the planning takes place when it comes to really getting connected with the tribes.
Okay. Now you say you work remotely, but do you also have to do a lot of trips to Washington as well?
And that's nice. We did have one trip in DC and just recently, and I'll be getting out this year to our local Forest Service unit to just introduce myself and work with them. But and then of course Alaska. But yeah, no, it doesn't require a lot of traveling, which is nice. So
Oh, nice. That's excellent. That's excellent.
Well,
So, go ahead, Angie.
okay, so Randy L., you've been really, really involved in the Shoshone-Bannock community for years now. I know, as you had stated, that you have a degree in museum studies, but can you tell us a little bit about what led you to the communications aspect of tribal relations?
I think my background and my personality. Being from the Fort Hall community, I like to consider myself very fortunate. I'm born and raised here on the reservation, from actually one of our smallest districts on the reservation called Lincoln Creek. So growing up in the rural area of the reservation with horses, with my family, as my neighbors, I always felt like I wanted to be able to share our culture, in a positive light, because just, attending school in the public school systems, there was a lot of misinformation about tribes in general, about my people. And I really wanted to be able to show them that we could also speak and represent our own issues and our own stories. And so I ended up going into history as my degree, and that led me to museums, because a lot of doors were opening in regards to wanting more information about tribal arts. And so I got involved with that. I did some internships in Washington, D.C. and New York City with the National Museum of American Indian. And that opened even more doors. And then, I always knew I was going to come back home, because really home is where my foundation began and where it still is. So I came back home not really knowing what I was going to do. I still had some loans that I needed to pay off. And I ended up getting into the nonprofit sector, and that kind of opened up more doors. I was doing some museum work as well, but I think in regards to communications, it's just a natural skill that I've had. I also served as Miss Shoshone-Bannock, which is our tribal
Oh,
ambassador.
yeah.
Yeah, and that also opened up a lot of doors. And it's a cultural pageant. It's not a beauty pageant. It's definitely a pageant to test us as young women to understanding our background, our family, our tribal. And again, I got to travel with the council. I got to go to some legislative events, and so I think that's really it. Everything that I've done, I feel just kind of clicked, and I was given the opportunity to apply for the public affairs position and got it, and was able to do that for 11 years, and I won a couple of awards. I'm going to say a couple. And again, my path has always been to building relationships to the outside, so they understand us more as people, as on an equal level. There shouldn't be the negative stereotypes that are still out there. So whenever possible, I like to get myself involved in spaces where I can actually provide the accurate information. So
No,
I'm sorry.
Now from my understanding, you're also involved a little bit with Ignite Their Future and helping promote some of those events out at the
yes.
tribes.
Yes, I was. So in my position, there's also my colleague, Travis Stone. Both him and I, right about the same time, departed from the tribal government. He was our land use director, and I was in public affairs. And we both went into the federal sector. And so he is a assistant director in the Office of Tribal Relations with the Forest Service. So we work collaboratively. And so both him and I will be joining the STEM that's going to be hosted by Idaho State University. I'm really excited about that because I actually am a former ASIS member. So during my college years, I was a member of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society.
Oh, wow.
Pretty long word, but it basically the short acronym is ASIS, which is a big part of STEM. And if I was still involved in ASIS, I'm pretty sure I'd be more interactive or interacted and connected with tribes when it comes to STEM projects. So I think me getting involved, both Travis and I, is awesome. We're both going to be representing our titles within the Forest Service. We are going to be down at our Bottoms area, which is a beautiful untouched grasslands. That's about 11,000 acres. We have our buffalo herd down there and our wild horses. It's a favorite spot for fishing, and just an overall favorite spot for me and my family to go down and swim. So we're going to be going down there to showcase and share some valuable STEM projects. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Excellent. Wow. You so accomplished. This is a question out of left field. Have you ever considered politics?
Yes, I have been asked. I have 3 children, and family is very important to me. And so I want to make sure that I'm available and accessible to my children, and not spending a lot of time in meetings and traveling, because I've been there, done that when they were younger. And, I'd like to take the opportunity because, again, life is short. And I really would like to be here for my children instead of kind of getting myself into politics where I know the game, traveled with my previous leaders. I know what it takes. I know how mentally and physically exhausting it can get on a person. So really at this time, I'm just enjoying working for the Forest Service. And I think eventually, yes, politics will be in my future. But right now, I'm just enjoying every moment I have with my kids and the projects that I'm doing.
That's wonderful. So working for the Forest Service, I know you're really excited about going to Alaska, but what are some of the other rewarding experience working with the Forest Service?
Well, I think the most important is, really being able to strategically align the Forest Service's new missions and goals, and being the face, a tribal face and a tribal voice. That's important when tribes are approached by the Forest Service, and having a tribal voice and a tribal face that gets it. I get it. I understand. I've been on the other side of the table. And even the way that funding opportunities and services are offered, I can be able to speak to that in a way that they understand it. Because again, sometimes at the forest level we can get a little bit too technical, and I know this because my first 6 months was definitely a crash course of acronyms and a different language that I wasn't used to. So again, you have someone that understands and that I can kind of address the main concerns, and that's important. But again, my role in communications is really just being able to provide and tell stories. So in a way, I'm a storyteller. And so I'm looking for tribal stories from different forest units throughout the United States. And I'll collaborate with the regional folks on telling that story at a national level. So I think that's the big win, is that now we have somebody that understands and has that tribal eyes, and I'm creating the stories and putting them out there at a national level versus keeping it within a state level.
Wow. Excellent. Wow. So these stories, how do you find these stories that you want to tell about the Forest Service?
We have a great group of tribal relations specialists throughout the United States that actually are working in the regions. So we meet monthly about and we talk about ideas. We talk about what are they doing. And they're the best ones that understand, because they're at the ground level actually doing the work. And so I'll get an idea, and they'll say, hey, we have a co-stewardship agreement happening in the spring. We would love to have a story on that. And so that's what hasn't happened before. We haven't had an individual from the Office of Communications actually be there to really engage and coordinate. So
and when you say stories, who are these stories for? Are these stories for the
everyone.
community? Everyone. And
everyone.
What are those stories that resonate with most people?
Tribal history. This forest unit was home to what tribe? A lot of people that live near the forest units may not know that this tribe once thrived in this area. So those are the storytelling that I will include, is that the history of that forest unit. What kind of unique items are grown there or available or have been harvested by the tribes. So basically including the historical aspect of a forest.
Nice.
Well,
which I think is very interesting to a lot of people. A lot of people kind of want to know more.
Right.
So does sometimes these stories include how modern taking of forest affects the tribal history, or
yes,
this was
yes.
once and we had these resources and these resources are no longer available to us, type of thing?
Yes. And again, and it goes to, a story can highlight cultural burning and cultural fires, and how the tribes, what tribe utilized that and what is it. Also, we have stories on watershed projects, wood innovation products, wildfire management. There's a variety of awesome titles that we can hone in and include tribal information, any topic. And that's the thing, is that that's never been done before. Now
Well,
we're changing the narrative to
Well, and
include.
Mhm.
yeah, and you know, the thing is, a lot of these stories, the public in large don't even hear
Mhm.
or not aware of. I mean, it's good work that you're doing, because I think it's time for more awareness of the impact
Mhm.
that we have on tribal communities.
Correct.
Well, Randy L, this went very quickly. We're out of time. Hopefully we can have you back on. If someone is interested in finding some of these stories to learn a little bit more, where would they go to find those?
Inside the Forest Service, IFS.
Okay.
And you can Google US Forest Service and it'll take you to our homepage. And that's where a lot of our stories are. And there's within that homepage, there are links to our future stories. And they can go in and look at previous stories that we put out.
Excellent. Excellent.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show today, Randy. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I'm going to look at that website. I do appreciate your time, and really such accomplishments. I'm so impressed. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll tell you, we didn't even get to half of hers, right? Like I'm actually on her Wikipedia page right now, and we didn't cover half of some of her accomplishments. So we may have to have you back on.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I do want to say is that, this STEM event happening in Fort Hall and Pocatello at ISU is happening next month. And I encourage any parents out there or young students listening to please register. We really need some good attendance to make it fun. And because again, we want to make STEM fun.
All right. Well, terrific. Well, again, if someone wants to check out our offerings at the Continuing Education Workforce Training, they can visit our webpage at cetrain.isu.edu. They can also email us at cetrain@isu.edu, or give us a call at 208-282-3372. And remember, this podcast is our way of doing community outreach and meeting people like Randy L. And if you like this podcast, please like, share, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. And as always, be safe out there.